Good evening, race fans, and welcome back to season number 12 of the Attrition Sim Race Campus Oval Series, presented once again by SM Racing Products. As you can see in the background there, we are at a speedway that the ASRC Oval Series has never once been to in its over 5 year long history now. Tonight, we are here down in Homestead, Florida for the Homestead-Miami Speedway here for round number 3 of the season. Now, what's important to note here is while we are at the big track here tonight, we are not this is not one of the double points races here this evening. Not necessarily every big track we go to is going to be one of the full-length ARCA double points races. This race is only going to be 67 laps in duration, of course, with the 1.5 mile long or 2.4 kilometer long speedway. That will bring us out to 100 miles. So all the races here in the ASRC Oval Series still going off that same idea of 100 laps or 100 miles, whichever comes first, and in this case the 100 miles comes first. And how about we take a look down at the starting grid for this rather unique event here tonight. Of course, first time in league history that this speedway has ever seen racing action from ASRC. Taking a look down at the starting lineup, though. Starting out on the pole of tonight's race, it's going to be the winner of last week's race back at Lanier National Raceway. That's going to be the number 15 SM Racing entry of Garrett Streets. Starting his outside, it's going to be the 85 of Brian Sabelski in that Neon Tiger entry. He is live on Twitch right now, twitch.tv/Neon Tiger, so be sure to go check out the driver starting at the front of the outside row. Starting back in position, number 3 in the SimSpeed Shop, number 99. That is going to be Tyler McCrae, the driver out of Chesterfield, Virginia, starting off in position number 3. Coming back in 7th in the championship standings right now. After picking up multiple championships in seasons prior, he's finding himself on the outside looking in here tonight, but starting off in position number 3. Going back to position number 4, that's going to be league admin Mr. Jason Gardner, starting it off in position number 4 here tonight. And right out of the top 5, it's going to be the driver leading the championship standings here this evening. Won the first double points race back at Charlotte Motor Speedway. That's going to be the 65 of Jason Mong in the Hershey's Racing Engines entry. Back in position number 6, that's going to be the 51 B4 Rules Gaming entry of Eric Gahn, followed by the driver out of Canada. That's going to be the Liquor Molly 38, starting off position number 7. 8th place can go back to the Drop and Bombs Racing driver. That's going to be the 28 of Steven Rex. Back in position number 9, that's going to be the unsponsored 78 here tonight of Derek Murphy, followed by the Dirt TV driver of Johnny Bell in the 27 machine back in 10th. 11th is going to be the 24 of Corey Logan. And green flag up in the air, Bill Watkins rounding out the tail end of the field. And it looks like we already have trouble on the speedway. Everyone's got it pointed in the right direction, but Jason Gardner is electing to start from pit lane, which is not something we normally see here in the ASRC Oval Series. Might have had some sort of trouble going on for the driver of that number 93 machine, because that is already putting him down. At least it will put him down a lap once he gets going here. And trouble again. Jason Gardner is around in that number 93. There is something severely messed up under the hood of that car. He's trying to get it pointed in the right direction here as the field rockets around, and sure enough, he's going to take the pole back to pit lane. No caution flag going to come out. And currently looking at the battle for the lead here between Garrett Streets and Brian Sabelski here as we cross the line and finish our first lap here this evening. Not quite sure what is going on with that number 93 machine, but that's going to leave us with 10 drivers on the lead lap for this 100-mile race here in Homestead, Florida. And of course, this track is going to also be hosting the NASCAR playoffs here in a couple of weeks, and that is going to be one heck of an event as well. But tonight, here in the ARCA Menards cars, and we are still side by side for the race lead. Sabelski is going to fall back a little bit there, coming out of, looks like that is going to be turn number 4 here, actually, excuse me. Going back down the front stretch now, coming out of 3 and 4 streets, holding on to a comfortable lead of about 0.3 seconds, but that's not going to be enough to break the draft quite yet. Sabelski trying to make the low line work, though. That's going to be a big what if here is what sort of line is going to be the ideal line on a speedway as large as this one is. Right now, Street's setting the fastest lap of the race with a 34.28, so it looks like the draft is not helping Sabelski all that much right now. Coming out of turn number 4, going to be putting us 5 laps in the books here. Still plenty of time left to go for these drivers, and they are battling it out. Back at the tail end of the field, actually, side by side for Derek Murphy and Bill Watkins there. It looks like maybe Murphy is a little bit off the pace because he is losing ground on Watkins really quickly here. It looks a little bit like they're in the back of that number 5 machine. Looks like that sucked back up to the back of the number 4, so the draft definitely is playing an effect here this evening. But Garrett Streets up in that clean air is still the driver with the fastest lap of the race right now. And it's not quite looking like that is set to change anytime soon. However, Sabelski might be looking to try and make a move on our race leader side by side up at the front. There's someone scraping up against the wall further back in the lap. Not quite sure who that was. It looks like the truck is not too certain on that one either, and a little bit loose for your race leader through 3 and 4 there. Car kicked out just a little bit sideways, but he's keeping it pointed in the right direction here, just trying to see how he's going to keep Sabelski behind him. And right now, it looks like that high line is working pretty well for Mr. Garrett Streets, side by side with Sabelski. And he keeps getting a slightly better run off the corner by holding it up to the top. Sabelski's trying to make the move down low, and it's just not quite sticking for him here. It is certainly close, though, but it does look like Streets is still keeping the advantage going. And we might have trouble back in the back. We've got a driver around. That's going to be Bill Watkins, and he immediately takes the toe to pit lane just like that, so the caution flag is not going to fly. Let's see if we can't take a real quick look back at what happened to the driver of the Tech Wizard number 4. Getting loose out of the corner. Ooh, hard impact on the outside wall. That might have broken the suspension on the right front, and sure enough, he just immediately takes the toe to pit lane. So just like that, now 2 drivers down on pit lane. One of them has officially retired from the event at that. Jason Gardner out of the race really before it even started. Let's actually take a quick look and see if we can't try and figure out what happened to Gardner here. Coming out of pit lane, he's on the pit exit road right now before we even get up to the speedway, and the car just snaps loose on him. Looks like he might have just gassed it up a little bit, and that sent it around, and then couldn't get it pointed back in the right direction. But just like that, Gardner has packed it up and has called it an evening here. Watkins is still down on pit lane, so he can still come back out and get back into this. And sure enough, we hear from Jason Gardner down in the chat. Multiple technical issues here. Decided to just go ahead and retire from the event. So sure enough, I guess that's one of those 4 drop weeks here in the ASRC Oval Series. This is unfortunately how Jason Gardner is going to have to be spending one of them. But that is what they're there for. Further back in the field, Derek Murphy a little bit loose through the corner, but he's trying to make things happen up on the high side, get involved in this battle with Corey Logan and Brandon Feeney. Logan currently the most improved oh no, not quite now. Johnny Bell is the most improved driver on the speedway at +5. Logan still +4 though. Pretty impressive for the CC Robotics 2024 here. Derek Murphy trailing just behind that 78. Murphy up a position. Feeney up a position as well. And actually, every driver that is still on the speedway right now is either in the same position from where they started or has gained positions. The only drivers that are actually minus positions right now are Bill Watkins, Jason Garvin, and Steven Rex. Currently looking at the battle for 6 here between Corey Logan and Brandon Feeney. About 0.2 of a second dividing these two drivers. Logan looked like they almost had a move set up on that look on Wally driver, but just like that, falling back and not quite able to make that ground back up. That just goes to show how big of a factor here momentum is at this speedway. Even the slightest little bit of lifting off the throttle and suddenly you're half a second back from the car in front of you. And sure enough, Derek Murphy's starting to catch up here as well. As Logan scrapes up against the outside wall, that's going to allow Derek Murphy to get around them without too much difficulty. And there is, I believe, Jason Mon back up in this battle as well. About 0.7 seconds between these two drivers. Currently Logan and Mon in 8th and 9th respectively. But once again, they're duking it out up at the front of the field. Garrett Streets, Brian Sabelski fighting for the lead of this event. Only 14 laps in the books out of 67. Still a whole lot of racing left to go. Still basically a mandatory pit stop with what the fuel limits are set to here this evening. And at a big track like this where everyone is so spread out with like 1 or 2 exceptions, pit strategy might just be what seals the deal here this evening. Right now, Garrett Streets has led every lap of tonight's event, and that's great, and that's going to be giving him plenty of bonus points here tonight. But he's also burning fuel way faster than any of the other drivers in the field, and that could hurt him in the long run when it comes down to pit strategy. But who knows, he might throw a curveball on these drivers. He might actually end up forfeiting the position to Brian Sabelski here in just a second as he gets big time loose coming out of turn number 4. Sabelski's going to almost pull it up alongside, not quite. Sabelski's really trying to look to make a move here, but just the opportunity isn't presenting itself for him. But sure enough, Sabelski's going to pull up alongside, and right now he is being scored as a new race leader. Is he going to clear the 14? Yes, he is. Excuse me, the 15 of Garrett Streets, and just like that, Sabelski is your new race leader in the Nihon Tiger number 85, and of course that is twitch.tv/Nihon Tiger. He should be streaming right here, right now, if you want to get an onboard perspective of the current race leader of tonight's event. A little bit further back in the field, side by side, is going to be Eric Gahn battling it out with the Sim Speed Shop number 99 of Tyler McRae. McRae finished second in last night's event back at the Lanier National Raceway, but still only 7th in the championship standings because he didn't have quite the race he was hoping to have at that double points race back at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. But right now, that 99 of Tyler McRae is showing that he is able to wheel it on these big NASCAR tracks just as well as he can on the short tracks like the Lanier National Raceway. And next week, having a little bit of a compromise for these drivers, going to be heading on over to Iowa Speedway. It's not quite one of these big NASCAR tracks, but not quite a short track either. It's somewhere right and comfortably in between. And I think that is where we're going to see some of the drivers that are having some trouble adapting to these bigger speedways really come out and shine, because Iowa is a track that we have been to in the actual dedicated short track cars. It's one of the bigger speedways we've been to in those cars, but it's a place where you can sort of put the super speedway skills to use and sort of put the short track skills to use. It's just a little bit of a weird one, and I think that's why it puts on such an exciting show when IndyCar goes there in at the real world. But first, these drivers have to figure out just how they're going to conquer this 1.5-mile Homestead-Miami Speedway. And again, this is the first time the ASRC Global Series, or ASRC as a whole, any of ASRC's series, has ever been to this speedway. But so far, so good for these drivers. They're managing to make things work so far here tonight. And so far, the closest battle on the speedway is the battle going on here for 3rd place between Eric Gahn and Tyler McRae. McRae almost looked like he was going to try and maybe do a little bit of bump drafting with that number 51, but ended up backing out of it. Probably for the best. The ARCA car, the way the nose is rounded on these machines, makes it a little bit difficult to bump draft here as their ground gets a little bit loose coming out of 4. Crossing the line once again, and this on lap number 21, already almost a third of the way through tonight's event. Setting about roughly 34-second lap times here tonight, so that's still pretty fast for these larger field tracks. Of course, back at Lanier last week, lap times were only 14 seconds, and those laps clicked by incredibly quickly. Last week also saw the rise of 10 caution flags in that 100-lap race. So this bigger speedway giving these drivers a little bit more breathing room, a little bit more room to play with, and really a little bit more strategic with their passes. And a move made further back to the back. Corey Logan looked like they might have had a little bit of trouble there in that 24. Jason Long passing them, now pulling away pretty handily up to 0.4 of a second. Nearly we get 0.5 there for a second, but it got closed back up just a little bit by that driver in this Easy Robotics entry. Logan trying to make it work a little bit higher up there, and they're going to get loose coming out of the corner. And just like that, all that ground lost once again. But Logan still is up +2 from the trouble that Watkins and Gardner are having. Watkins has officially retired from tonight's event as well, it looks like. So 3 drivers have packed it up and headed on home for the evening. 9 drivers still remain in tonight's event. And Logan is slowly making that ground back up on Mong here. How about we take a little bit of a look on board with the CZ Robotics number 24 and see what is going on inside of that machine. You can hear the off throttle time through these corners. Sure, this is a significantly bigger speedway than what the ASRC Oil Series drivers are used to going to, but that does not mean that you can flat foot it on the speedway. That's here at the speed right here currently. About 140 is the peak that we were seeing before we were in the corners, and of course back down the straightaways we put the power back down. They didn't really have to go through these corners. I'd imagine that they're actually doing some favors for the tires here, just how much they're looking through the corners. Currently at the tail end of the field, but when the pit cycle plays out and you get into the race, you see that 24 had some speed that some of the other drivers don't have to work with. Up at the front, Brian Sabelski still in the lead of this one after passing Garrett Streets, and now has a whole 3.4 seconds ahead of him to play with. 3.4 seconds. That's honestly a pretty decent amount of room for that number 85 driver to work with here. Of course, if a caution flag comes out, all of that advantage is going to get thrown out the window. If Sabelski can build up even more of a gap between himself and Garrett Streets, we might just see him be able to hold on to the lead once the pit cycles go through. Of course, that begs the big question then, is the call going to be 2 or 4 tires here tonight? Back at the Charlotte Motor Speedway, we saw a pretty good variance in the calls between 2 and 4, but if I remember correctly, I think it was 2 that ended up winning out. And of course, we saw Jason Mong take home the win of that first round back at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Currently Mong running back in 8th right now. And that's a driver I think we need to keep our eyes on, because Jason Mong was having equally troublesome of a race as he is having right now before he managed to pull off that win. So Mong is definitely not quite down for the count here tonight. It really is just going to come down to how the cautions, if we get any, end up playing out, and how that will cycle into everyone's pit stops, because everyone is pretty much guaranteed to have to get fuel at some point in tonight's event. It's just going to be the big question of when they decide to do it. Of course, so far, everyone's still pushing the cars with everything they've done. It seems like the strategy generally around the speedway right now is push it until you don't have the gas to go anymore and then pit for fuel. So we could see drivers start to be pitting in probably as early as right now if they really wanted to push it. Of course, so far no cautions, so I think everyone's being a little bit cautious just in case some chaos breaks out in the latter half of tonight's event. But right now, the spotlight is all on Brian Sabelski up in position number 1. Started on the outside row, now leading the race up 1 position. Of course, subsequently, Jared Streets was our pole sitter back in that number 15, the SM Racing entry, and only down 1 position so far this evening. So still a pretty solid race, but riding on the coattails of his win last week at Lanier, Streets would certainly love to be 2 for 2 here tonight if he can make it happen. But right now 5.1 seconds back from our race leader. That is a monumental amount of ground that he's going to have to make up here tonight. Back in position number 3, though, Mr. Eric Gahn in the B4 Rules Gaming number 51. Having a really solid run here tonight, up 3 positions from where he qualified, looking to take home another podium. He took home the podium back at Lanier. He took home the podium back at Charlotte. If the race were to end with the running order how it is right now, that would be 3 third-place finishes in a row for the B4 Gaming Rules number 51. B4 Rules Gaming, excuse me. Getting these sponsors all sorts of jumbled up here tonight, but Eric Gahn having one heck of a race here this evening. Tyler McRae, though, back in 4th in the SimSpeed Shop number 99. Multiple time champion here, back when we were running all short tracks and still having a whole lot of speed here in these longer races so far in season number 12. But maybe not quite as comfortable on these longer speedways as he is the short tracks. Of course, round 1 of the season, McRae had a little bit of a mishap, ended up bringing it home position number 11. Last week, went back to the short tracks where he is known to be really strong. He gets really loose coming out of 4 there. And he brought home a 2nd place finish despite there being 10 cautions. Now running back in the 4th, a top 5 finish. Still really solid for the driver of the number 99 machine. But he is a several-time champion here in the ASRC Oval Series, and he is raring to get a win here in season number 12. Rounding out the top 5 right now, that's the Dirt TV number 27, Mr. Johnny Bell, up 5 positions from where he qualified. The driver out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and one of the other league administrators here. Having a pretty solid run so far this evening. Normally he is a dirt guy, and he does a lot of work behind the scenes at real-life dirt races, but right now having a pretty solid run on the asphalt here tonight. And it looks like our race leader, Mr. Brian Sabelski, has come on down pit road. And what's the call going to be? Looks like that number 85 is going to be taking 4 tires here this evening and pitting on lap 35. So just barely after the halfway point, Sabelski's going to be the first one to pit. Now the big question is going to be, will that nearly 6-second gap be enough of a gap to play with when we have the rest of the field come on down through pit lane? Currently it's going to filter back into the field, just barely still on the lead lap, because there is the SM Racing number 15 right behind him. So great work by Sabelski not to go a lap down on that pit stop, because, you know, I mean, Sabelski is still in a bad position if a caution flag were to fly, but not as bad as it could have been if he actually were stuck a lap down here this evening. Now the big question is going to be, when does Streets decide to pit? Where does Gahn decide to pit? And we have trouble, I think, No, it looks like everything is okay. We got a call from the truck that Jason Long had gone off the speedway, but it looks like he's doing all right now in that 65. Corey Logan going to be the next driver to elect to come down pit lane here in the CZ Robotics number 24. What is the call going to be? How is the strategy going to differ for the drivers in various places around the field? It does look like Logan is going to be going down a lap here. And it looks like the call is going to be 4 tires for the number 24 as well. And as they filter back out on the speedway, I believe that should put them a lap down. Yep, sure enough, down a lap for the number 24. Now side by side for 6 between Jason Long and Derek Murphy, and Murphy makes the pass without too much difficulty. It looks like Derek Murphy is on the brakes a little bit. Might be seeing him get ready to come on down pit lane here in that 78. Sure enough, down onto the apron for Derek Murphy. A little bit loose, but he gets it down onto pit lane without too much trouble. And with where he stands right now, I believe that will also be putting Murphy down a lap as well. Not quite yet. But Belsky's just got around him, so I believe that will be putting Murphy a lap down. What is the call going to be for him is the big question. Looks like Murphy is going to be taking 4 tires as well. And now Streets finds himself coming on down pit lane here, so let's see what the call is for the other driver that has been contesting for the lead for the entirety of this race. Now this will put Eric Gahn as our race leader, and Gahn will pick up a bonus point here this night for leading at least 1 lap in that 51 machine. Now I'd imagine the drivers behind him, McRae and Bell, both are just waiting for Gahn to pit so that they can pick up the lap lead bonus as well as Streets comes back out of pit lane. Going to be a 4 tire stop for him as well. So really looks like all around the fields in every part of the standings right now, drivers are doing 4 tire stops. No one is going to be attempting a 2 tire stop so far this evening. But you know who I'm keeping my eye on now? That is going to be the Dirt TV 27 of Mr. Johnny Bell. If there's any driver in this league that loves to try wacky, unorthodox things down on pit lane, it's that 27 of Johnny Bell. And right now, currently running up in the 3rd position. I don't think he's doing his normal curveball of trying to make it a no-stop race. I think he knows that you're basically going to have to stop whether you like it or not. The big question is going to be, what exactly does he do when he does? And of course, it's always a gamble with him because sometimes his strategies work out brilliantly and net him a podium finish out of the clutches of defeat, and other times it completely blows up in his face as Tyler McRae comes down pit lane. It looks like McRae actually might have locked it up a little bit coming down onto pit lane. Hopefully we won't see that 99 get a pit entry violation, but he has parked it down on pit lane. He has taken the tow to his pit stall, and there is damage on the right front. I almost wonder if McRae might have hit the pit entry wall. Let's take a quick look back here, see if we can't see what happened to McRae, because I have a sneaking suspicion we know where the right front damage came from. He locks it up, and oh no. That might just be a race ender for the driver of the number 99 machine here. That was brutal to see. Now up the front, Eric Gahn still being scored as our race leader, as it looks like Streets just unlapped himself on speed here. So Streets has a fast car to be working with on that 15 last time by a 34.2, or no, a 34.4. Fastest lap of the race is still being held by Garrett Streets with a 34.28. Those Streets might have just had some trouble. We just heard someone scrap against the wall, and the only driver that could have been was that number 15. He still got it pointed in the right direction, still has a lot of speed to work with, getting a little bit loose off the corner there, just a tiny little bit sideways. I worry that Streets is having some trouble keeping these cold tires underneath him here. Right now as it stands, 4 drivers left that have not come down to pit with 23 laps left to go. Eric Gunn, Johnny Bell, Brandon Feeney, and Jason Mong have all stayed out here tonight. And right now, Streets has almost a half of a lap disadvantage to Brian Sabelski. That is going to be really hard to make up, even in 22 laps. Sabelski is going to need to either completely burn his tires up or just make a really big mistake and lose a ton of ground if Streets wants to make that up without there being a caution flag. And with how loose Streets is getting on corner exits, sliding the rear end around like that, that is not doing him any favors here. That is going to only make his job even harder here tonight. Eric Gahn up at the front, still leading the race, still has refused to come down pit lane, and so far so good. I mean, I don't think he has the fuel to make it 21 more laps, but these drivers have shown me up before, so I'm not going to count him out just yet. Further back, the closest battle on the field is the battle between Johnny Bell and the Liqui number 38 of Brandon Feeney, and that is still a full second dividing these two drivers here. Feeney running up in the 3rd position, of course, that is with how the pit cycle has filtered out. Was running back, I believe, in 6th before drivers starting pitting here this evening. Running in the Liqui number 38, I believe he is one of the only, I believe he's the only driver in the field right now that does compete in the real world. And of course, Feeney is a real world driver in a short track driver in the real world. He does not have any experience that I am aware of on tracks anywhere near this big, so he's another driver who really thrives at the short tracks like the Lanier National Raceway we went to last week, and I would imagine should do pretty solid at Iowa as well. Of course, this isn't the only Monday Night League that Brandon Feeney competes in. He does a double header. He competes in the Red Light Racing Scrambler Series just an hour prior to this race, and he immediately comes over here and competes in this one. And I'll tell you what, the experience between the two leagues, both running these bigger speedways, does seem to pay out for him. Just a matter of seeing what he can manage to pull off in the later half of the season. Right now, Feeney comes into tonight's event being scored back in the 8th position in the championship standings, just 5 points behind Tyler McRae and 7 points behind the car right in front of him, Mr. Johnny Bell. So really, some of Feeney's pit strategy here might entirely revolve around what Bell is cooking up right now. Right behind him, that's the 85 of Brian Sabelski, who despite having pit, is slowly but surely making his way back up to the front of the field. We could see him become the race leader once again, even if these other 3 remaining drivers don't pit. And I'll tell you what, if he manages to pull that off, that is going to be a very impressive display of driving skill. Of course, Sabelski was actually, I believe, the first driver to really voice the opinion of why don't we try the ARCA Menards car? And sure enough, I mean, it seems that they pay him off pretty good for him. But it's completely shaken up the entirety of the ASRC Oval Series format, and I think it's definitely an interesting change of pace for a lot of these drivers. It's throwing a lot of these short track veterans into situations they're not entirely comfortable with. As it stands right now, though, 16 laps left to go. Still 4 drivers left on the speedway that have not made the decision to come down pit lane. Comparing the lap times, though, Eric Gahn, current race leader, last time by a 35.82. Meanwhile, Mr. Sabelski, let's see what he sets when he crosses the line. For Sabelski, it's going to be a 34.7. So Sabelski is 1.1 seconds a lap faster than our current race leader. Looks like currently he is coming up on the 78 of Derek Murphy, who is currently a lap down right now. Murphy running back in the 7th position, continuing the curse of always finding himself running back in 7th. And he's going to be scraping against the outside wall there a little bit, doing his best to keep out of the way of the race leaders, but maybe doing it a little bit too well. A little bit of scraped up paint on the side of that 78, and sure enough, there's Corey Logan going around him, so that scrape against the wall actually is going to cost the 78 a position here. That's going to put him back into 8th and be the last driver currently on the speedway. Tyler McRae still down on pit lane. And sure enough, McRae has packed it up and sent it on back to the hauler. So McRae has retired from tonight's event. It just hasn't quite been updated on the timing and scoring right now. McRae has also retired, so that leaves Murphy as the last driver with a leg in the race here this evening. And all the drama is up at the front. Who is going to win this game of chicken? Or is it going to be Ryan Sabelski, who is now catching up to the 38 of Brandon Feeney, fairly on speed here, even though the top 3 drivers still have not come down pit lane with 13 laps left to go. We're now getting into the territory where if these top 3 drivers do have the fuel to make it to the end, they can't go back on their decision now. They have to stay out because they're not going to be able to make any track position back up on the new tires. But now 6 seconds divides Sabelski from our race leader. We may just see the new tires be so powerful that they get back up around the drivers that are not making a stop here this evening, and that's kind of a bit of a shocker here. Last time by a 35.9 for Eric Gahn, and let's see what it does for Sabelski, a 34.8. So Sabelski still 1.1 seconds a lap faster than our race leader. That's not a pace that Gahn and Bell are going to be able to hold off without some extremely defensive driving. And honestly, if they tried that hard to keep Sabelski from passing, that's just going to cause a caution flag and throw everyone's races for a curveball. One driver who is really hoping for a caution right now is going to be that 24 of Corey Logan. Right now they are primed to be the lucky dog should a caution flag come out here. With 10 laps left to go, that could be a monumental boon for the 24. I think right now the plan is just for Eric Gahn and Johnny Bell to try and hold on the best they can. Street's still 20 seconds back from the race leader, so even if Sabelski gets a hold of the race lead once again, it might not be enough for Streets to catch up. That could still let Gahn and Bell walk away with podium positions here tonight. Even with 9 laps left to go, still a whole lot of what-ifs for our race leaders here this evening. That said, I don't think there's enough time left in the race, and even if Gahn stays up here as long as he possibly can, I don't think Gahn will take home the bonus from most laps led. I'm pretty sure that that is going to go to Sabelski or Streets one way or another, but I'm not 100% positive on that. So Gahn might actually be able to pull off most laps led here this evening, but I don't quite think it's enough. 8 laps left to go here at the Homestead-Miami Speedway, and I'll tell you what, Sabelski is catching up on Bell, and that's one more driver who might be second-guessing themselves on their zero-stop strategy. And of course, that's still under the assumption that it is a zero-stop strategy. Gahn and Bell could still potentially need to pit for fuel, and both are trying to hope for a caution here, which I don't think the chances I'm getting are very good. Bell pulls it up high, keeping it alongside Sabelski though, even on those older tires, but no, Sabelski just has the speed, and Bell actually just going to throw him a play the parachute there. He's going to let Sabelski by. Not worth fighting that battle. Now I almost wonder if maybe Bell is trying to use the draft from Sabelski to further fuel save. I don't know how confident he is on his fuel levels here. Let's light on board with the driver number 27 here. You know, sure enough, Bell is coming down pit lane. He does not have fuel to make it to the end. tried the zero stop strategy. It didn't quite work. Brandon Feeney is also coming down pit lane. Feeney also doesn't have the fuel to make it to the end. That just leaves Eric Gahn up at the front of the field. How much more fuel does he have in that FIFA Rules Gaming entry? Because if Bell and Feeney both have to pit, I can't imagine Gahn has the fuel to make it to the end, but he's still staying out. Big high five up in the air from our flagman. 5 laps left to go from the Homestead-Miami Speedway. Zabelski is rapidly closing the gap now. I don't see any way Gahn can really pull this off unless he gets really lucky here in the next, call it about 30 seconds. Drivers filtering their way back out on the speedway. Feeney coming back out on the track in the 8th position. Bell back out in 5th. So I think Bell went for a fuel-only stop here. Sure enough, with 4 laps left to go, though, Sabelski is our new race leader. Now the big question is, can Eric Gahn stay out for these final 4 laps, or is he going to have to pit? Because he could absolutely walk away with a 3rd podium in a row if he makes this work here this evening. I can't imagine that he would have enough fuel riding in clean air, though. It's one big gamble one way or another. Is that 51 slowing down? No, he is staying out for another lap. Gahn still has some fumes left in that tank, but is it going to be enough? It might just be because he doesn't have anyone behind him to worry about except Garrett Streets, who is still 17, I guess really 16 seconds back from Gahn. Both drivers going to be going around that 65 of Jason Long. Long pulled it down low to let Gahn by, and I don't think he entirely realized that Bell is still competing for a position here. So now Bell finds himself in the lucky dog position should a caution flag come out. But with 2 laps left to go, it's going to have to happen here and now if he wants to get back onto the lead lap here this evening. Corey Logan catching up to that 65 of Jason Long as well here with 2 laps left to go. Will Logan be able to break into the top 5 here this evening? As we are going to be getting the white flag here in just a couple laps, and sure enough, Logan makes the pass. Logan finds themselves inside the top 5. Now, with 2 laps left to go, white flag going to be coming out this time by. Does Gahn have fuel to make it to the end? Is he committed to the zero stop strategy? Yes, he is. Gahn stays out. Will he have the fuel necessary to cross the finish line? I don't think Garrett Streets is going to be a problem from 16 seconds back. Eric Gahn is going to walk away with a podium here tonight as the only driver on the speedway to make the zero stop strategy work. Actually, that's not true. Looks like Jason Long also has not pitted here this evening. Up at the front, white or checkered flag out on the speedway. Brian Sabelski takes home his first win of season number 12 here in the Arkham Menard Chevy. Then it's going to be Eric Gahn across the line in the 51. And he is slowing down a little bit here. He might be about out of fuel. Then it's going to be Garrett Streets bringing it home back in position number 3. Only 3 drivers left on the lead lap here tonight, and it is going to be your podium finishers. Brian Sabelski, Eric Gahn, and Garrett Streets. I'll tell you what, I gotta give credit where it's due to the drivers that stayed out here tonight. I really did not think it would be possible. But sure enough, for some it worked out. For others, Mr. Brian Sabelski managing to take home the win here tonight. First win of season number 12 for Brian Sabelski. Not his first podium. Took on the podium back at Charlotte and then back at Lanier, a top 5. But a win, definitely going to be doing the driver of that 85 a whole lot of favors here this evening. That said, race fans, don't go anywhere. We will be back here in just a moment with some words with your top 3 finishers here tonight. Alrighty, race fans, welcome back to Homestead, Florida. Welcome back to the Homestead-Miami Speedway for round number 3 of season 12 of the ASRC Oval Series. And Mr. Brian Sabelski, you were probably one of the biggest advocates of switching to the ARCA car, and finally you managed to take home a win in it. How are you feeling here this evening?
Happy. Happy. Uh, yeah, I'm just glad that everything worked out. I don't know what it was, but in practice, I finally I was struggling to get this car up to speed in official series practice and official series races and whatnot. And I was just like, man, I can't for the life of me figure out how to go fast in this car or on this track. And something just tonight, I don't know if the weather was a little bit different or what, or I just tried something and it worked, but it just clicked. And yeah, I wasn't too worried about starting on the outside because I knew I'd get the outside line for a little bit if I needed it, and I was just happy to ride for a bit and save tire and just wait for an opportunity to make a move.
After you pit and started getting into the closing stages of this race, did you have any concerns about the drivers trying the zero stop strategy?
Yeah, actually a little bit. I was kind of like trying to do the math in my head about how fast I had to go, and I knew it would be a little marginal to get to Eric. I knew I could get to everybody else. And then I kind of started to notice that I was like chopping like a second a lap off of him coming to the end there, and I was kind of like, okay, well, I can probably make this work if I'm just patient on this and just run my line and run consistent laps here. I can do the thing.
You can do the thing and do the thing you did, walking away with your first win here this evening. And next week, heading on over to the Iowa Speedway, having a little bit of a compromise on track length. How do you feel heading over to that one?
I like Iowa, so it races a lot like Richmond, which I also is a track I really like. So yeah, I'm hopeful that I'll do well there. That's at least the plan for next week. But yeah, this was, I think, as far as looking at the schedule, this was the one where I was the least unsure how I'd run. So I'm over that hump, and from here on, in like the next 3 or 4 races, it's just like things are lined up to be really, really good races for me. Hopefully, if I can avoid trouble.
Well, I don't think this will be quite enough to move you up to the lead of the championship standings here tonight, but you started off tonight in second in the standings, only 12 points behind Mr. Jason Mong. So actually, you might, I don't know. I don't know the math. I'm not going to say anything until I do, but
it's all right. It's all right. Don't worry about it. It's a long season, 12 races. There's a lot of patience. It's going to take some time. Don't worry about it. I just need to run consistent. I need to run smooth, and we'll figure it out.
You're making the magic numbers in the sky very happy. That's all you need to know.
Yep, that's all. That's all I care about.
I won't bog you down too much with math here this evening. The microphone's all yours, Mr. Sabelski. Who you want to thank for getting it done here tonight?
Well, of course, thanks to the fine folks who organized this league. You know, it's Jason. I do some race admin stuff here and there just to help out, but he's kind of the big man behind the whole thing, and Johnny, of course, as well, handles a lot of admin work here and there and has in the past. So it's always really good to have them around. Of course, thanks to SM Racing for sponsoring the series. It's great. Again, I have one of their button boxes. It's very lovely. Works wonderfully. Would recommend to anyone. Of course, shout outs to Maconi Setup Shop, official setup shop of NASCAR. Once again, they do have ARCA guides each week, including for Homestead for last week. This week they do have a guide for Iowa if you are gonna run the ARCA officials, or if you're gonna run here next week and you're just kind of looking for pointers online and all that stuff. Justin Yee does a really good job of putting those guides together. I've used them for a while to help me get better and get faster and kind of learn to handle the car a little smoother on tire wear. So yeah, shout outs to folks at McConey Setup Shop. Hi everybody on Twitch, both on Aiden's stream and on mine. Good to have you here. Love y'all. Thank you for being here. And one more quick shout out if I can. I'm doing a fundraiser this month with Take This or for Take This, where every lap I complete, I'm donating 10 cents of my own money to Take This at the end of the month. So this is another $6.70. So we're at $16 for the month already, and it's been 2 days. But I've also got a Tiltify that's open that if people want to chip in some of their money to a good mental health cause for Mental Health Awareness Month. No amount is too small. We're always happy to have whatever it is. We'll be doing it all month, so we'll be doing it next week too for Iowa. And every Monday night, every lap I run in this series and complete will be an extra dime, an extra tenth of a dollar, because it's called Every Tenth Counts. So every lap I finish, I'm gonna make a small cumulative donation to a charity that I've worked with for 5 or 6. It's like almost 6 years now. So
Good deal. Well, it sounds to me like I need to make a point of not giving you the commentator's curse for the next couple of weeks.
That would be great. I'd appreciate it. Well, I mean, it's Iowa, Michigan, Phoenix. That should be a pretty solid lineup for me as far as races. But I appreciate not having any curses.
Good deal. Well, thank you for coming out, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Thank you very much.
And finishing back in position number 2, one of the drivers we unfortunately were not able to talk to last week with the technical difficulties we had going on, making it 3 podiums in a row here tonight. How are you feeling, Mr. Gunn?
Pretty good. I was surprised I was going to get in the top 3 because I was just out there just trying to, cut laps and make sure I'm conserve fuel because I practiced trying to do it, and I was really, really, really too close.
Yeah, you managed to make it work, though. I mean, was there any point in tonight's race where you were second guessing yourself on your pit strategy, or is it just something you were convinced you were going to do from lap 1?
Well, I was convinced from lap 1 what I was going to do, but I was like, well, I'm out front, and then I started seeing Sabelski catch me, and I was just like, well, maybe I should have pitted. I was second guessing myself a bunch of times, but I'll take a second.
Yeah, coming into tonight's event, you were just barely behind Sabelski in the points, so you're still pretty comfortably holding on to a podium position in the standings heading into Iowa next week.
Just be consistent. That's pretty much what I plan on doing the rest of the year. Just stay consistent.
That seems like a pretty solid plan to me. Consistently has got you so far up in the 3rd in standings and 3 podiums in a row. Maybe you'll be able to make it 4 in a row next week at Iowa.
I'm going to try.
Good deal. Well, for now, the microphone's all yours, Mr. Gunn. I won't keep you all night. Who do you want to thank for making a 3rd podium happen here this evening?
Well, I definitely want to thank y'all for hosting and your live stream and all that. And I want to thank the Dirtbags and Misfits and the Sandbaggers team that we all, a part of over in Dirtbag Racing. We've made 3 different teams, and then Circle Jerk Setup Shop, which is a setup shop that we've made. We've been, making setups, and we share them, and we get them better, and just keep on and keep on. And they're all free for anybody to the public. So anybody wants them, just ask me. We'll send over a setup for you.
Good deal. Well, congrats on your 3rd podium here tonight, and good luck next week at Iowa.
Thank you.
And finishing back in position number 3, one half of our title sponsor here tonight, Mr. Garrett Streets. We didn't get to interview you last week at Lanier, but that's okay because you're here again tonight. How are you feeling?
Yeah, happy to be back up here, Aiden. We had some speed qualified on the pole again. I think that's 2 weeks in a row. Happy to have that. This track was kind of a question mark. Didn't get any practice in this week, and Homestead's a tricky track, especially with this car. So just happy to to have some pace, lead some laps, and get a podium finish and chip away at the points battle after being in a bit of a hole at Charlotte.
Sure enough, and then next week at Iowa, our last regular race before we go into another double points race. I feel like we just had one, but sure enough, how you feel heading into a little bit of a shorter speedway next week?
Yeah, Iowa's a fun track. It's kind of tricky. There's some bumps there in the middle groove there, and it's got a lot of characters. So look forward to going there. Look forward to seeing how it plays out, and hopefully we'll have some good pace and keep being consistent and run well again.
That seems like a pretty solid plan to me, and I'm not 100% sure on my math here, but I think you led the most laps here tonight. What do you think might have had to have gone differently here this evening for you to be walking a win with a win here tonight?
Yeah, I don't know that there's much else I could have done. I think that I think that I should have ran my line a little more at the early part of the race, and probably should have pushed a little harder at the beginning. I was a little focused on saving tires, and I think that I could have just managed the race a little differently. But Brian was fast. Brian's a good race car driver, and he did really well. And I was super impressed with Gann's fuel saving, and I don't know how I could have beat that. So yeah, that was impressive. Just him being able to save that much. I didn't think it was possible, but yeah, he surprised me. So that was a good job for him on getting that second place finish.
Yeah, still one heck of a race for y'all and another really solid finish for you. So who knows? I mean, it's looking good heading into Iowa next week.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm glad that we're driving the ARCA car. It's a lot of fun. Fun that the car isn't on rails. It's loose. It's dicey. It's a real driver's car. So having a lot of fun with it and having a lot of fun, with everybody. A lot of good racing.
Good deal. Well, thank you for coming out. Congratulations on another podium finish here this evening, and I look forward to seeing you at Iowa next week.
Yeah, thank you, Aiden.
Alrighty, race fans, you heard it from your top three finishers here tonight. Brian Sabelski, Eric Gahn, and Garrett Streets walking away with the podium finishes here this evening. But that's not all the drivers here in the field here tonight. How about we take a look down? Of course, unofficial race results here. But as it stands right now, following our top three drivers here tonight, it's going to be Johnny Bell rounding out position number 4 and Corey Logan walking away with a top 5 here this evening. Back in position number 6, that's going to be Jason Wong in the 65, followed by the driver out of Canada. That's the 38 of Brandon Feeney. 8th place going to go back to Derek Murphy, followed by Tyler McRae back in 9th. Bill Watkins rounding out the top 10. And then, of course, Jason Gardner and Steven Rex both having those technical issues right at the very beginning of tonight's event. They're going to be rounding out positions number 11 and 12. That said, that's about all we got here from the Homestead-Miami Speedway here this evening. Next week, heading on over to Iowa Speedway for another regular 100-lap or 100-mile, whatever comes first, race. And then after that, we will be having our second double points race of the season at Michigan. So that is one heck of a race. And then rounding out, of course, the month of October after that is going to be the Phoenix Raceway. They've got quite an exciting schedule lined up for October, and then, of course, a crazy second half of the season in November, and then we're going to be crowning a champion on December 4th. That said, though, that's still a long way out from where we are right now. For now, thank you all for tuning in to tonight's event here at the Homestead-Miami Speedway. And we hope to see y'all again next week. Same day, same time, Monday night at 10 p.m. Eastern for round 4 at the Iowa Speedway.